Hi friends, this is Joe, and this is episode number 184 of the Dekahedron RPG podcast. And today's topic is favorite spell or magic system. As fate would have it, I re-rolled favorite. That's what I rolled in week one, but dice do what dice do. And spell or magic system is the topic of the week. So my favorite spell or magic system is not Fancying Magic. I have never liked Fancying Magic. And I know a lot of people do, but none of the people I played with as a kid, they didn't like it either. No one, this whole fire and forget, it falls out of your head. It makes no sense. At least in the way, I guess when I was growing up, my mental image of a wizard was, or a magic user, was Merlin in the Disney animated, Sword and Stone cartoon, or it was Samantha on Bewitched, or it was Genie on I Dream of Genie. These were what wizards were. And in none of these cases do they fire a spell and say, well, I can't ever use that again because it fell out of my head. Although, now that these words are leaving my mouth, when you're watching a show, very seldom do they keep relying on the same spell over and over again, because that gets a little old. And so maybe Fancying Magic it prevents you from leaning on that crutch. I probably should have thought that through before I started recording. Anyway, that's going to give me something to think about for a while. Anyway, but yeah, that's not the type of magic system I like. I like the type of magic system we see in GURPS Magic, where your character knows a spell. The spell is a skill that they have, and they can cast it because they know it. I like that. And you're saying GURPS, that's not old school. Yeah, you're right. You know what? You are absolutely positively right. And GURPS traces that magic system back to Tunnels and Trolls, where you have spell points, which is actually your strength. And every time you cast a spell, you lose some of that strength, and it recovers over time. And that's the way it limited Magic. And spell points were popular back in the old school days, not just for Tunnels and Trolls, but other people in the APA communities back in the day kept trying to come up with these alternate spell systems. And in fact, I think it was John Peterson said that the psionic system that we see in Eldritch Wizardry was actually Gygax's way to address that. It was his way of showing us a point-based magic system, which, all right, cool. So yeah, I like that. I also like experimenting with other things. Like Dave Arneson's original system was that you had to put spells together from components that you found in the dungeons and on your adventures. That was his way of limiting magic, by limiting the ingredients you would find. In the rules to the game of Dungeon, not the board game, the role-playing game, they simplified that by making spells these spheres that you would find in the dungeon. And that's how you limited the player's access to spells to prevent them from becoming too powerful. Those are clever. I like those. What I don't like about them is there's a little too much GM fiat taking away from player agency. So the player can't say, oh, I have these spells. The GM says, okay, I'm going to give you this spell. I'm going to give you that spell. That rubs me the wrong way a little bit. I like players to be able to make meaningful decisions. Yeah, I've experimented with systems where the players can make their own scrolls, aka out of Holmes Basic, fairly cheap. But that's the only magic they get is the scrolls they have. But I make them a little cheaper, and so now you're limited by encumbrance. But you decided what you wrote down and everything. And anyway, all various things I've liked to try over the years because I do not like Fancying Magic. But if I were to pick a favorite, I'm going to say the spell point casting system like we see in GURPS and Tunnels and Trolls. That's it. That's all I have. Then this is the end of OSR October, so we will be getting back to our regular content next time around. Thanks for watching and or listening, and until next time, happy gaming, happy life. Bye.